grew up in a Christian household, so certain genres like, rock and hip hop weren't as like, you can imagine my parents weren't as enthusiastic about those genres than they were with, what were deemed as safer genres like Motown and, pop and soul, which I understood. So naturally, I fell in love with, the Marvin Gayes and the Temptations and, the Four Tops and Stevie Wonder. And
great music.
that was my foundation. And even before I lived with my uncle, both sides of my family with, my mother and my father, we really appreciate music and we really are sensitive to music. Like we take music very seriously. My mother was a huge Michael Jackson fan. So you could probably with that fact, you could tell, pretty sure that answered a lot of people's questions. Like, where's he getting? My mom was a huge Michael Jackson fan to like the extent of being like a Michael Jackson impersonator too.
Oh, wow.
So, it seemed as though it was almost fate that I would like the guy, to the point where I'm wearing his glasses, the Ray-Ban wings, something about him, something about that era I really liked. And, my love for music, I would say, began at a very young age, at a very early age. But my love for art, apparently, it has always been around. My late grandmother on my mom's side, she was an artist. She was a painter. So I would find myself attracted to her room. And anytime she was in there, she would usually either be watching something on television or she'd be painting. And I would just sit there and just kind of like soak it all up, not knowing that like my interests were developing. Just watching my grandmother paint, watching one of my uncles play the bass. I love the bass. That's my favorite instrument. But sitting around, those individuals, family, and really just like I said, like soaking it all in and internalizing, why am I drawn to this? And then the older I get and the more I understand, the more I can perceive like reality and what's all around me, I'm like, I really like that song, or I really like that art piece, but why? And I'm like, okay, it reminded me of it probably goes back, as far as, my times with my granny and, my uncle, both my late granny, my late uncle. So yeah, but we've all been pretty much surrounded by soul, pop, funk, R&B. But where it stands right now, I'm open to music in general. Like I find myself, the Police, they're my favorite band.